Hi and welcome to today's Moskito Art Talk with Andreas Senoner from Florens, Italy. You have been here in Luleå for a 2-month residency stay, and you work mainly with wood sculptures and other natural material. And I know that you have been working with the birch tree up here in Norrbotten and Luleå. That's new for you. Usually you work with walnut and linden, for example. But we're very happy to have you here and to hear more about your artistic practice and also about your residency stay in Luleå. So very welcome.
Thanks. So hello everyone, and thanks for being here. I will spend a few minutes and I will tell you how I decided that I wanted to be an artist and my education, because I think it's an important step to understand the future work that I will show you. So I was born in the north of Italy, in the Dolomites. It's maybe you know the Dolomites because we have the ski races, and because of the mountains, they are unique in the world and world heritage. And another thing that we have is there are a lot of wood sculptors. So, for example, my father is a wood sculptor. My grandfather was a wood sculptor. So when I was as a little child, I was very fascinated by this world, by sculpture and everything, like the workshops. So maybe when I was 10, I decided I wanted to be a sculptor, a wood sculptor. So I made the art school there in my village, and I learned the technique, because wood sculpture is not so easy, because you need to know a lot of things about wood, about tools, and the last years of when I was maybe 17, I realized that I started to travel around Europe to see the first contemporary museums, and I realized that to be a wood sculptor like I wanted to be was not the same as to be an artist, a contemporary artist. And so I decided to do the Academy of Fine Arts, and I decided to move to Florence. When I was 18, I moved to Florence, and since there I live there. But it was not easy, because since I'm from the north, we speak German too. So the academies in Germany, in Austria, I also were an option. So, but finally I decided for Italy and for Florence, because of the history of the city, and because the Academy of Fine Arts in Florence is the first academy in the world, and people like Michelangelo studied there, worked there. So it was just great, and I think it was a great choice. And after a few years there, I realized that in my opinion, sculpture and wood sculpture couldn't be contemporary. So I stopped with wood, with sculpture, and started to do other things like performance or videos or photography. And I made this during almost the whole time at the academy in Florence. The third year, I moved to Spain, to Valencia, and I studied there at the university, art at the university in Spain. And I made there a course of performance with a very important performer from the Fluxus group. So it was just amazing for me to do this kind of things. No? And the last year, when I was maybe 22, I went to the United States. I studied the last year in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, in the north of the United States. And when I was there, I realized that soon I had to, the academy was finished, no? So I had to find a work to survive in some way, no? And I don't know in Sweden, but in Italy, it's not so easy to be an artist, especially when you are a young artist with no experience, with no galleries, with no structure. No? So I met there a sculpture professor, land art Japanese professor. He was already, it was in 2006, he was already old. And I spoke a lot with him because he was very inspiring for me. And finally, he said to me that in his opinion, I should restart to discover my traditions, restart to do sculpture like I used to do with the background I learned when I was a small child. And he said, because sculpture and even wood sculpture can be contemporary. You don't need to do strange things to be contemporary. So I changed another time, and since then I finished the academy. Since then I started to work and to do the work I'm still doing. So it was interesting. This was my education. So, and after the academy, I'm a visual artist, and I was very lucky because when I returned to Florence, I made a show there, and a good gallery, a good contemporary gallery saw this show and they contacted me. And since there, I was very lucky, I have to say. And since there, I worked for maybe 6 years with this gallery, and this gallery went to the biggest art fairs, contemporary art fairs in Italy. So it was a good way to know people and to start selling my works, and it happened like this. And after I found other galleries, and now my whole structure, I work with galleries. I produce, and after I sell to the galleries. So it started like this with this show in Florence. So now I would like to show you some work. And I will start with a project I made when I was still a student in Florence. I went for a month in Serbia, in Belgrade, and I worked there with 2 groups of children. Okay, do you see it full screen? Perfect. I worked there with 2 groups of children in very bad situation. The first group was a group of children. They lived in a small village, in a gypsy village. These children were gypsy. Under, you see it in the picture, under this bridge, under the highway bridge from near Belgrade, no? And they lived literally with garbage, no? So you can see without shoes, with very, yeah, it was. They lived in a very bad situation. So you see in very poor way. So I of course I couldn't speak with these children because they didn't understand me. The older people, someone could understand something in German because they speak German too, but the small children didn't speak any language I know. So I found out that if a good way to interact, to get in contact with these children was to give them gifts, no? Like fruits or something to eat. No? So I found a way to speak with these children, and I went there and made for a week. I took pictures of portraits, pictures of these children, and then I printed these pictures in big size, like 70 per 30 centimeters, black and white. And then I returned and asked the same children to color their own pictures, their own images, no, and reinterpret it themselves, no. So it was a great. In these pictures, for example, the father of these two children wanted to show them how they have to paint, but it was a. And this was the other group. It was a group of children who lived in an orphanage, you know, children without parents. And all these children also had mental problems. So it was a very strong institute. So, and here I made the same. I made 1 week, I shot the pictures, and after I printed everything and I returned them to ask them if they can paint their own pictures. No, this, for example, is an example. And they were very happy to do this because they told me it's the people told me this. It's maybe the best day in the whole year for them because it was great. This, for example, was a room where the girls used to sleep, but 16 years old girls. So you see the very, very, very strange situation. This is me. I was very young, and after I found a gallery, a small gallery in the center of Belgrade, and I asked them if I can put the pictures on the windows, no, of the gallery, no. So I made this, and it was very strange to see the reaction of the people in Belgrade because they saw this picture and they asked, "Where is this place?" And I just tell me it's like 15 minutes from this gallery, no? And they didn't believe it. It was so very. So now I show you. This was the introduction to this work. I show you the work they made. So as you can see, a very different work that it has nothing to do with the work I'm doing now. Do you see it full screen? Okay. Yeah, this is the introduction. Okay, this was the places. You see the center of Belgrade, then the place where the gypsy families used to live, Gazela, and a little more far away from the center, this institute for the other institute. So, for example, this is the work they made. So you can see black and white pictures, very big pictures, and they just the children used to repaint their own pictures, no? And everyone had a different reaction. No? For example, he only painted the mouth. He, for example, he wanted to delete himself. No, it was very, he raised the face, for example. This picture is very strong. I think it's. I love this one, this man, because he only made this he only painted this small green line. And after, when he saw his own work, this picture, when he finished it, when we exposed it, he was very, very satisfied. It was so great for him to see this picture somewhere outside the institute. Yes. This child, for example, he drew the teeth in white because he hadn't teeth, so everyone reinterpreted himself. So you see very strong situation anyway. And this is the second part. This is the Rom. These are the Rom, the Gypsy children. They made a different kind of interpretation. They almost everyone just erased it with a lot of energy. Everything you see, it's not color. It's scratched paper with a lot of violence, because it was. And now on the small screen, maybe it's not so. You even don't realize how these pictures are, because they are very big, no? So it's very impressive to see them for real. This was the picture where the father made everything. It's almost a normal one, because he wanted that to show the children how to paint. I like this one very much. I have this one in my apartment. Okay, so this was a work. This was a kind of work I used to make when I was a student at the Academy of Fine Arts in Italy. So as I told you, after I changed, I returned to sculpture, and I work mainly on a few themes like metamorphosis, or I used to work on the childhood, on problems of childhood, on heritage. So a great thing in my artistic practice was in 2011 they selected me for the Venice Biennale, in the Italian pavilion, the Venice Biennale. So this is the work I showed there. And I'm sure you know, the Venice Biennale is the most important event in the world for contemporary art. So this was a sculpture. It was one of these sculptures I made. This was the other one. I showed these two sculptures, and yeah.
Now we can't see the pictures.
You don't see it?
No.
Okay, sorry. Do you see it now? No.
No, it's just like smaller pictures on the side. Maybe if you open them one by one.
Maybe I will try now.
If you have opened them, you can share again.
Maybe now it would.
Now we can see it. Yes.
Do you see it now? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this was one of the two sculptures. I used to work a lot on childhood and on problems. This was the other one. So it was great for me. It was a great thing for me to show these two works at the Venice Biennale, because after, a lot of galleries contacted me, and a lot of things started since then. No, they called me for a lot of shows, and yeah, this was a great step in my artistic practice. No? And then I show you the work I'm doing now in the last years. Do you see it? Perfect. So in the last years, I work mainly on two or three concepts, like metamorphosis, heritage, and stratification. And so this, for example, is a recent work. It's 2019, and I like to. I always start with wood, and I like a lot. I always search for woods that have their own history. No? So, for example, this wood is a very old wood. It's like 80 years old, I think. It was cut 80 years ago. And it was in Florence during the big flood that destroyed Florence in 1966. So you can still find sand inside and traces that tell about this event in Florence. And after this, after 66, I don't know what animal just destroyed the wood. No? So the wood tells a history, no? And I like this. So this is This is a work. It's part of a series. I use a lot. I always start with wood, but I use a lot of other materials, like in this case, feathers or lichens or beeswax. It's wood, walnut, and feathers. So these are works about my childhood. So this, for example, is very interesting for me because it's the wood is a typical wood of the mountains where I was born. And when you remove the case, the box, the yellow box, you can smell this wood, no? So it reminds, it reminds me of my childhood, no? And the mountains are exactly like the Dolomites. So sometimes I work in a smaller scale, like here at KKV, it's 1.3 scale. But I also work a lot of times in a real scale. No? So this, for example, is a sculpture in real scale, and I made I try to make 2 or 3 of this every year, no? So this is plywood, you know. So we wanted to reproduce the like a topographic card, no, of my self-portrait, no, lichens. So the last works I make now, I always use 2 very different woods because I want to show this the transitory. So this is very interesting sculpture for me. I made 5 of them, I think. This is a private apartment in Paris, and I wanted to expose this sculpture like this because I wanted to recreate this feeling. Now, when you at the first moment when you enter in the room, you don't even notice this sculpture. Then when you see it, you get scared, no? And it's like when I wanted to work on this. So for this, I worked with the I worked with the architect for the lights and everything. So it's exactly how I wanted to install it, no? So this is a work. It's about stratification. These are it's compressed fabric, and these are all T-shirts I used to wear in the 10 years before I made this sculpture. No? So it's like a stratification of what I call skins, no? Because finally the clothes are skins, no? So you can see the years, no, the 10 years of T-shirts, no, and it's 10 years of changing, no. This is another kind of work I often do, more figurative, and I always work on myself. I always make self-portraits or. This is the latest work I made this last year during the pandemic. This is another sculpture, the same concept as that you saw, the sculpture you saw in Paris. This was an exhibition I made in Switzerland, in Zurich, a few years ago, before in 2019. So you see, I always try to recreate a feeling. No, I print these big pictures of forests or what it is. No, what in relation with the show. No, and I like to expose the sculptures with other documentation. This is also a recent sculpture. This is the sculpture I made here in Luleå. It's the only one I finished. I'm working on other sculptures, but this is the only one I finished for now. And it's birchwood and lichens, so it tells about Norrbotten, no? Because the materials are from here. No? This is my studio in now I show you some pictures of my studio. This is my studio in Florence. I have it in the center, in the center of Florence, like 2 minutes from Ponte Vecchio. It's the oldest bridge in Florence, and it's an old building. It was built in the 15th century, I think. So this is the view I have from my door. No? So it's very inspiring to work there, but I don't have nothing that's has to do with nature. Then it's just stone and art. So this is the studio inside. Some impressions, some works I was working on. My studio is full of material, full of tools, but I always say I know where everything is, and that's the important thing. So this was a sculpture I made with lichens. This sculpture now is in a contemporary art museum in Madrid, in Spain. Here it wasn't still finished. And you see, I always used to work on a lot of sculptures, a lot of works, contemporary, you know, because I don't like to work on a single piece. I have to, and sometimes I start and then I quit maybe 2 years, and I continue after 2 years. This is the studio. Yeah? The big door is the entrance, and this black shape of a woman, it's maybe 150 years old, I think they told me. So it's really strange to work there. If you know that this building has a lot of history, no? Maybe Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo was there because it was already there, no? So it's really interesting. So this is the storage. When I don't like something, I just cut it. This small sculpture was a normal sculpture, so I didn't like it, so I just cut the upper part, and maybe I will continue this sometimes. This is work in progress. As I told you, I always work with my body. So this is my face. No, it's a gips reproduction of my face, and I was working on. This is my studio. Okay. So now I wanted to show you, this is very strange. Last winter I made an exhibition in a contemporary art museum in China, in Qingdao. It's the east part of China during the pandemic, so it was really strange. I couldn't go there, of course. It was not possible to go there. And I just want to show you how they this was when they received our artworks. Do you see the pictures?
No.
No. Now you see it. Okay. This is the museum. You see this in China. They have these big cities. It's incredible. This museum, and this was when they received our sculptures. No, you have to. Do you see how they are? They are with masks, and they were so scared about Corona. That was just amazing, incredible to see this. So yeah, it's incredible. And this now I show you. This is the last show I made this summer. It's a solo show in a museum in Milan. It's a Museo Francesco Messina, and this is some of the work I made there. This is the museum. It's an old church. It's because in Italy it's usual to have museums or to do exhibition in old churches. So churches that aren't churches anymore. It's do you see it? Yeah, this is the museum inside, so you see it's a very big space, and the permanent collection is the work of Francesco Messina. Francesco Messina was a famous artist, sculptor in Italy, and this museum it's his museum. It used to be his studio, no? So I tried to find a dialogue with the work of Messina, and so you see, for example, the 3 black sculptures are sculptures of Francesco Messina, and the other one is my sculpture. So I find to find a way to add my work to the work of Francesco Messina. And I was satisfied how it turned out. So yeah, this sculpture, for example, the wood. This wood, it's large. It's from the 18th century, and it was a house of my family. So they cut it a piece because they want. My father cut it a piece because he wanted to do a window, and I made this sculpture with this piece of this house of my family. So it's always, I always try to find relations with the material I use. No? And this was also a sculpture I exposed there. As you see, I work with lichens since a few years, because I like a lot the feeling that they produce. The only thing is that they change with time. No, now you see this. You for sure, you know. Now in the pictures you see this lichens green, but maybe in 2 or 3 years they will be. I hope they will still be like this, but maybe they aren't anymore. No. This is another sculpture I made for this show. I made these sculptures during pandemic, no? So you see, it's very aggressive because it was a very bad time for us in Italy, for everyone, but in Italy it was particular. Okay, so this is mainly my production, and since I'm there, since I'm here in Luleå, I wanted to live in a city in the north of Europe for a few months. So I discovered KKV through because I saw the open call, and I was very impressed by the workshops and how KKV is. So I made the application, and it was great for me to work here, and I still continue working now. The last weeks I'm here because it's not so easy to find residencies with. I usually try to go to stay in a residency maybe every year or every 2 years, but it's very difficult to find residencies with workshops and tools like KKV. It's almost impossible. And if you do a work like the research I try to do with wood, and you need machines, you need tools, you can't do it without. No? So that's a big problem for me, because I can't go where I want. I need some specific tools. And I had a great time here in Luleå, because I found great people, very interesting people, and I saw a lot of things. I got a lot of inspiration, and I made some work. I still want to finish what I'm trying to do, but I'm sure that when I will return to Italy, I will have a lot of new inspirations and ideas from this experience. So it's really great. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Do you have questions?
Thank you, Andreas. Very, very interesting to see different parts of your career and what you have done. I will just stop recording.